At the movie's start, we see archival footage illustrating artificial intelligence, a breakthrough in robotics that allows robots to participate in all aspects of life alongside humans. To blur the line between AI and humans, scientists suggest that people scan their faces so that the robots, dubbed simulants, can have a more realistic appearance. However, in the year 2055, due to AI, a nuclear warhead explodes in Los Angeles, resulting in the death of over 1 million people. Since then, the Western government has banned AI to prevent similar tragedies, but the so-called New Asia, consisting of Southeast Asia, Japan, Taiwan, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and parts of India, do not share their concerns and continue to advance AI, coexisting with it on equal terms. The United States government declared a military mission in New Asia to find and destroy as many simulants as possible to secure its future. The action shifts to the year 2065. American soldiers using their primary weapon, North American Orbital Mobile Aerospace Defense, NOMAD, a space station scanning the location for robots, arrive in New Asia. Their main objective is to find and destroy Nirmata, the mysterious creator of AI. Meanwhile, in a house near the soldiers' landing zone, Joshua Taylor spends time with his pregnant wife, Maya, and questions her mysterious tattoo. Suddenly, there's a noise outside. Maya comes to the window and Joshua puts on his prosthetics. A group of simulants, led by Heron, bursts into their house, bringing with them an American captive named Drew. The simulant group detects Nomad approaching and leaving Drew in the house. Joshua sends Maya to gather their belongings and stays alone with the captive, accusing him of not giving them more time to complete the mission. It turns out that Joshua is an undercover U.S. Army sergeant trying to get to Nirmata through Maya, who, according to intelligence, is his daughter. Outside, soldiers encounter robots, and a shootout happens. Seeing what's happening outside, Joshua catches Drew's radio. He informs the command that Nirmata is not there, asking to recall the raid. Suddenly, a shocked Maya appears behind him, having overheard the conversation. Disappointed by her husband's betrayal, who claimed to have left the army, Maya aims her weapon at him, ignoring his pleas to think about the child. She rushes outside and joins the simulants, whom she considers her family. They jump into boats and move away from the shore, but an enormous explosion occurs at that moment. 5 years pass fast. Joshua takes medication for post-traumatic stress disorder and undergoes another examination. He then runs to work at Ground Zero, where he and the rest of the team are involved in cleaning up the explosion site. Suddenly, one of the robots found in abandoned cars comes to life. It begs for mercy, but Joshua immediately shuts it down. His partner is concerned about the robot, but Joshua reminds her it's a machine without feelings. After some moments, he reviews videos with Maya and remembers how she created robotic prosthetics for him. He tells the girl that he lost his arm and leg during the explosion in Los Angeles, and also lost his parents and brother, who were at the epicenter of the disaster. In the evening, Joshua is swimming in the pool when General Andrews and Colonel Howell suddenly approach him. They inform him that intelligence has found Nirmata's laboratory and discovered that he developed a superweapon called Alpha O to destroy Nomad and win the war against humanity. Andrews claims that only Joshua knows the structure and location of the laboratory and can help them. At first, Joshua refuses, reminding Andrews and Howell that he almost reached Nirmata 5 years ago. Still, a military squad thwarted his plans with a sudden raid. Moreover, he accuses them of causing the death of his wife and unborn child. Joshua plans to leave, but Howell activates a holographic video recorded 2 days ago, where Joshua notices a living and healthy Maya working on the superweapon. Howell promises to spare Maya's life if Joshua agrees to lead them to the laboratory, and he reluctantly accepts the offer. Then, Nomad scans the area, and the squad disembarks in a field. Joshua leads them to the laboratory but soon finds that a village has been built over it. Threatening with weapons, the soldiers interrogate the residents, trying to find out how to get to the laboratory. McBride, one of the soldiers, threatens to shoot a little girl's puppy, sending her into hysterics. The mother tries to calm her down, but Joshua notices her pointing to the altar. Turning one of the totems, a hatch suddenly opens beside them, leading to the laboratory. McBride and Hardwick stay outside, and the rest of the soldiers go on reconnaissance. They shoot all the guards, and Joshua reviews surveillance camera footage, trying to figure out where Maya is. The squad advances toward the heart of the laboratory, firing at scientists. Still, many of them survive, barricading themselves behind bulletproof doors. Joshua tells them that the door locks operate using facial recognition systems. Meanwhile, local police arrive at the laboratory. Bradbury manages to eliminate some officers, but new squads come. The soldiers reach the bunker with the superweapon, but Bradbury calls for help. Everyone except Joshua, Shipley, and Daniels goes to fight the police. Shipley hacks the security code, and Daniels sets up targeting beacons. But at that moment, security forces storm in and open fire on Daniels. Shipley, receiving a message from her wounded partner, rushes to him while Joshua stays at the entrance to the bunker. Soon, the doors opened, and Joshua entered inside. He sees a child watching television and then realizes in horror that the child is a simulant. Suddenly, a scientist appears behind Joshua. After shooting the soldier, she seals the bunker entrance and sends the child robot to Nirmata. The child escapes from the laboratory and observes the fierce firefight in the field. The surviving squad members return to the plane, and the captain tells Howell that Shipley and Joshua are still in the laboratory. Howell tries to slow the Nomad strike, then instructs the team to take off without them and heads to the base. Outside, Joshua searches for Maya among the evacuating scientists, but fails to find her. Soon, Nomad contacts the group and orders them to evacuate urgently, as a missile strike on the AI base will occur in a minute. In the final moment, Bradbury tries to reach the plane, but a sudden effect knocks her off her feet. Already in the plane, the team discovers that a bomb is attached to it, and within seconds, their aircraft explodes in the air. Joshua watches in horror as his teammates perish. At the same time, Nomad delivers a strike on the laboratory. After recovering from the shockwave, Joshua regains consciousness in one of the boats and sees the simulant child. He then returns to the field, finding the injured Shipley. Joshua moves him to one of the empty houses to hide from the police. Suddenly, the television in the room turned on, and they noticed the child robot in front of it. Joshua turns off the TV, but the child turns it on again with a simple gesture. This is when Joshua realizes that this girl is the superweapon. Suddenly, Howell contacts them, and a loud signal reaches the nearby farmer simulant. Joshua tells Howell that the weapon looks like a child, puzzling Howell. Realizing that Joshua and the injured Shipley won't escape unnoticed, Howell orders them to destroy the gun. Still, Joshua hesitates to harm the child, even if it's not real. Suddenly, Joshua notices the girl drawing Maya's tattoo. He demands to know where his wife is, but the child only mentions the mysterious name, Dian Dang. At that moment, the farmer enters the room. Addressing her, he says he will kill the American. With the help of a translator, Joshua understands him. He shoots him first, attracting the attention of all the police in the area. Before the police come, Joshua manages to drag Shipley into a truck and calls the girl with him. Cops throw a grenade at them, but the nearby dog carries it back and detonates it. Then the girl activates the truck using her abilities, and they escape. Meanwhile, the police find Howell and put her in a van where McBride, who survived. After some time, they attacked the police and took control of the van. On their way, Joshua tries again to find out from the girl where his wife is, but suddenly Shipley regains consciousness. Threatening with a gun, he demands to turn around and go to the U.S. military base since he won't last long. However, Joshua declares the base is too far away and promises to take him to a friend living in the provincial capital. Suddenly, another car appears on the road. Since their truck is broken, Joshua asks the people for a ride to the city. But before that, he puts a hat on the girl's head to pass her off as human and invents a name for her, calling her Alfie. After some time, Howell and McBride find their truck with Shipley's body inside of it. Using a particular device, Howell temporarily transfers Shipley's consciousness into the body of a police simulant to find out where Joshua is and what happened to the superweapon. However, Shipley needs to manage to say something useful and disconnect permanently. Howell declares Joshua and Alfie wanted. In the evening, their family van is stopped at a checkpoint. Still, Alfie uses her power again to turn off the electricity and escape the encirclement. Stopping in the city, Joshua asks Alfie again about Maya's whereabouts, but the girl remains silent. Then they board a train to avoid the cops, and Joshua sees many women resembling Maya. Still, they are just simulants with her donor face. On the train, Alfie inquires about Joshua's life, and during the conversation, they bond. Eventually, the girl falls asleep on his shoulder. In a flashback, Drew assigns Joshua to gain Maya's trust, to gather information about Nirmata. Also, he gives an engagement ring with a tracking beacon. He warns that she will eventually be eliminated as a terrorist. Exiting the train, Joshua and Alfie discover wanted posters everywhere. Then they arrive at the simulant factory, where Joshua introduces Alfie to his former commander, Drew. Joshua tells Drew about Alfie's abilities, and his girlfriend, a simulant named Kami, asks the girl what would make her happy. Also, Joshua reports that he's looking for Maya and asks to trace her using a tracker, but Drew claims she's not alive. Joshua proves the opposite when he sees a recording, and Drew agrees with him, not wanting to argue. After investigating Alfie, Drew concludes she is much more complex than the other robots. She will grow, and her superpowers will develop, allowing her to control the other stimulants. Meanwhile, the local police and Howell, with soldiers, actively search for Joshua and Alfie. Soon, Kami nervously notices that someone arrived, but it turns out to be just an ice cream delivery. She takes the package from the courier, but upon opening it in the room, she discovers a bomb that explodes in her hands. Joshua, Alfie, and Drew manage to escape before Howell and McBride appear, who take Kami's head, intending to hack it. On the way, Drew tracks a beacon ring that belonged to Maya and finds it in Joshua's old house. Inside, Joshua finds the ring on the flooded floor and then watches a video of their last meeting. Meanwhile, a simulant approaches them, and Alfie goes to Joshua to warn him. Suddenly, he shouts at the girl and demands that she tell him where Maya is. Frightened, Alfie starts crying, and suddenly, Joshua is filled with compassion, apologizes, and hugs her. After a couple of moments, Drew burst into the house. In the last moments of his life, Drew confesses to Joshua that the sudden raid 5 years ago was organized because intelligence discovered that Maya was, in fact, Nirmata. He picks up Alfie and tries to escape, but soldiers and simulants surround him, including Heron, after which he loses consciousness from a decisive blow. In another flashback, we see how Joshua met Maya in a club and then learned her story. Her father taught her everything he knew about AI, but he was forced to flee when the war began. The following day, Joshua wakes up in a cell on the simulant ship. Harun asks why he needs Alfie, and Joshua replies that she was supposed to lead him to Maya. Then Harun adds to Joshua's knowledge and reveals that Nirmata was initially her father. Joshua asks Harun for a meeting with Maya. Still, Harun is convinced that the Americans want to get close to Nirmata through him. Suddenly, the simulants learn that Nomad has attacked their base. Joshua asks Alfie to help him escape. He jumps into the water, and the simulants open fire on him. The ship then departs, but Joshua manages to survive, swimming with them and hiding under the vessel. They arrive in the simulant city, where Joshua sees they can feel and think just like ordinary people. Harun explains to his comrades that Alfie cannot currently destroy Nomad, but if they bring her on board, she could deactivate it at the cost of her own life. At night, Joshua disables Harun and tries to escape with Alfie. However, at the same time, the Americans attack the city, entering huge tanks and destroying everything in their path. Alfie runs away from Joshua, intending to help her brethren. Howell and McBride launch primitive robots that penetrate deep into the city and explode, killing more people. Alfie disables one of the robots, but McBride suddenly shoots her, receiving a bullet from Joshua in return. Since Alfie is unconscious, the American robot reactivates and explodes on the bridge. Trying to save Alfie, Harun takes her to Nirmata and allows Joshua to accompany them. On the way, Harun reveals that Maya created Alfie from a scan of a human embryo, making her a copy of their unborn child. Finally, they reach the Simulan Buddhist temple and hand Alfie to the monks. Joshua asks if Maya is in a Diandang since the girl claims that Maya is there. Joshua realizes that Maya is not alive. Still, upon entering the temple, he sees that she is on life support. The monk claims that she has been in a coma for 5 years. Simulant, however, cannot harm Nirmata and provide her peace. Joshua approaches his wife, now embraced by the restored Alfie. The girl asks for help taking her mom to Diandang, and Joshua disconnects her from the apparatus. Soon, Americans arrive in the mountain village and shoot all the simulants. Hao enters the temple, threatening Joshua with a weapon, attempting to awaken Nirmata's consciousness. Suddenly, Harun shoots her, prompting the Americans to open fire on him. Soldiers approach Howell and see that a bomb is attached to her, activated by Alfie's power. Then Harun asks Joshua to take Alfie away and destroy Nomad. Joshua takes Maya's chip, and soldiers separate them from Alfie, taking them to Los Angeles. General Andrews forces Joshua to destroy Alfie, and he pretends to agree, but only temporarily disables her. They take the girl to the blast site for incineration. Still, she regains consciousness on the way and turns off the vehicles. Joshua and Alfie escape, reaching the lunar shuttle. Andrews orders all flights to return to the spaceport, but Alfie redirects their ship to Nomad. In response to Nomad's threat, Andrews orders an attack on all simulant bases around the globe. Joshua sets explosives and sends Alfie to the control center to turn off the power on the base, preventing the launch of missiles. Meanwhile, Alfie turns off all Nomad systems, and Joshua sets a bomb with a 10-minute timer. Returning from the control center, Alfie discovers a room with numerous dormant simulants. She notices a robot with her mother's face and attempts to activate her using Maya's chip, but it doesn't work. Meanwhile, the effect of Alfie's power weakened, and a few missiles still hit their targets. Suddenly, a giant robot with tentacles attacks Alfie and Joshua. Still, explosions resonate throughout Nomad, and the launched missiles fall without detonating. Joshua tells Alfie he loves her and claims he's going to paradise. He then launches Alfie in an emergency capsule back to Earth. At the last moment, Joshua discovers that Maya's chip has started working. Husband and wife run towards each other, reuniting before their end. The capsule with Alfie safely lands, and the girl and her fellow simulants celebrate their long-awaited freedom.